The mom's struggle is real.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of The Mom Struggle is Real. I am DW as my co-host, or the host is laughing at me going, what does that mean? Some of you out there know what it means, but I'm going to keep Tracy in the dark. So how have you been this week, Tracy?
Keep the mystery alive on that one.
It's the only thing I got. It's the only thing I got. So as you guys are hearing this, the other episode, the very first episode, has been out for about a week. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Love to hear your comments. Subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Tune in all of your favorite podcast apps. But we'd love to hear your response. I know it's gotten a lot of hits as of today. We launched it. It'll be a week later when you guys hear this particular episode. You're already at 100 listens. So nice. for the first time ever, and I was doing very minimal.
Does that even count with the 99 that I listened to myself?
Do we have to start this over? I can take that out in post. So that for numbers, as far as you, because you're new to podcasting, that's actually very well. That's very good for the minimal marketing that we had. We really didn't push it too much prior to this show launch. So you're doing good. So kudos to you.
Awesome. Thanks.
How's your week been?
Not bad. Like everybody else, a little sick and tired of being cooped up. Right. And, one day I'm okay with being cooped up, and the next day I'm pulling my hair out, and this new norm is nothing fun.
It's not new anymore, I don't think, at this point.
No, it's definitely getting second nature, and I was just discussing today that I think that our old life and our old world is exactly what it is, old. It's not going to go back to that ever again.
Yeah, definitely not. How's the little one dealing with
This is nothing any different for him, right, because he would happily never leave the house, right, ever. The only thing he would like is just to be outside where it's
That's
nice.
Fine until he's 33.
Yeah. Well, he's also born on St. Patrick's Day, so until he turns 21, I think he's going
to... They might not ever leave the house. They might not. You better be careful. Right?
Speaking of that, when he turns 21 thing, when I say the mom struggle is real, I also think of that as that everything that leads up to you being a mom, everything that you've done up until that point forms you as a person. All your jobs, what happens in school, and all those things. And keeping you in mind, being the co-host with me right now, I figured that since you don't have your own children, that this one subject would definitely keep you a little intrigued, and you would have enough info to play back and forth with me on.
Yes, I play with toys at 49, so if that's what we're talking about, sure, I got...
Hey, listen, we're not going in depth on what kind of toys they are.
They're Legos. Look, you're in the studio. There's action figures here. They're not dolls, everybody. They're action figures.
I can only see your studio on camera, dude.
Yeah, right.
But eventually, maybe we'll get to the point where we can be in the studio together.
Yes.
But as I'm saying, again, I'm always trying not to say
That's okay. That's all right.
One of the jobs that has definitely formed who I am as a person, and who I try to not want to have my son turn into one of the people that I've actually dealt with my whole life. And he's going to be eventually, because everybody's going to go to a bar. But I bartended for years, and I told you that before, and I think we mentioned it in the last podcast. But it was always something that I could do, knowing if I went to any state that I could always take up a bartending job anywhere and do it. The only thing you end up having to do differently is sometimes having to learn a different drink for wherever you're working, or region you're in.
The drink of the week that everybody seems to make up and think that you know how to make it.
I know. What
was it? What was the it was with Jaeger and something else. It wasn't the Jaeger bomb. What was it before that? It was Surfer on Acid. It was made at Duffy's one year, and all of a sudden one night 15 people are asking me for it, and I'm like, I have no idea what this is.
I thought you were going to say Red-Headed Slut.
No, that's I know that one. But was the
a Red-Headed Slut, or
no, I dated one. But no, that's the thing though. Anybody who makes a drink up, they think all the bartenders know it. I'm like, no. Where did you get this? Oh, it's at Duffy's. What's in it? I'm like, Okay, well, tell me what's in it, and I'll make it for you. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, when did you get it? Last night when we made it up. I go, see, well, how would I know that?
Exactly. Or they tell you, go ahead and look it up on the internet. Well,
yeah, okay.
Regionally, they're all made differently,
yes,
too, for the most time.
Sex on the Beaches, yeah, definitely.
Definitely different. Matter of fact, it's different 30 years ago when we used to
And
make
it
it
is
than
now.
it is now.
Oh, I'm sure,
There's only like 2 liquors in it now, where it used to have 5.
Sex on the Beach?
Yeah.
I only used 3.
3?
I only used 3. There you go.
See,
Well, you were down south, too, though, right?
Yes,
for a long time, so that's a big difference.
Club of 93 used to have 5.
Oh.
You remember? In the big goblets?
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's right. I only used 3. Oh, well.
Well,
there
you were
go.
shorting everybody. Look at that.
Yeah, but okay. Well, it's like George Pricing. What do you want me to say? Anyway.
But it's funny. So when you're bartending, it's amazing to me how when people are sitting on the other side of the bar and they're coming in to order a drink from you, how they look at you. And one of the major questions they always say to you is, what's your real job? Like this job that you're doing.
Bartending was not your real job?
That bartending would not be my real job. What is your real job? What do you really do? Like, you're working 60 plus hours a week,
right.
but you have to have another job other than bartending.
Right.
This cannot be your real
9
job.
to 5 job. Yeah, your 9 to 5
right.
job. Yeah.
You're only doing this because you just can't wait to work
and
somewhere.
love people.
And for the most part, I did
Yeah.
like working with people, and I think I liked working more the DJ's pace more when you're turning them in, turning them out was a lot easier
Fast
for me
turnover,
to because there was a lot less speaking at that point.
Yeah, it's not the hometown bar where you got Bob and Bill sitting there for 4 hours drinking 3 beers and leave you 50 cents and want to hear everything about their life. Yes.
But I hope that I mold my son or anybody else I come in contact with that they're not the type of person that sits on the other side of the bar that feels as if they can say things to a bartender that they wouldn't say to anybody else they didn't know prior to this, or any certain. And I always used to say it. Would you ever say that to a farm animal? Why would you say that to me?
Right.
Why would you ever come out saying something like that to me?
Do we have an example of?
I have several examples.
Because we both know the old adage is, your bartender was your real therapist back in the day. If you could talk to your bartender, your hometown bartender, he's there to solve he or she are there to solve your problems. That's the old adage.
It's true.
But yeah, I can relate to that. I can relate to that.
Yes, it's. A couple times, very rarely did I ever get put in a position that I was standing there with my mouth wide open
Right.
that I couldn't answer something because I was just so dumbfounded to somebody would say something
It's
to me like
definitely
that.
different as for a woman as well behind the bar.
It's amazing to me for a woman behind the bar. I started out cocktailing, and one of the reasons I went back behind the bar is because when you're out cocktailing,
There's no safe zone.
there is no safe zone. And for some reason, nobody can place an order with a cocktail waitress without sticking their hands on some part of their body.
Yeah. Or getting really close. Now, obviously, DJs, if you're not familiar, it's a lot of
right. So
but yeah, I get that. But yes, totally. Hey.
Oh,
hey,
yeah. Around the
yep.
hips that, somehow there's a swipe up against the side of your chest. Your butt constantly gets fondled. If I was dusted for Prince by the time I left...
It's a crime scene waiting to happen right here.
Complete crime scene. But so I put 3 feet of bar between me to learn how to be a bartender. So I figured, all right, this is a little bit more of a safe zone. You think you can run away from them if they ask you something foolish, and but you're not. You're still captive. You're still captive audience that you're stuck there having to talk to these people.
It's definitely harder than being a waiter or waitress to a point where they can come and go from each table. You can go in the back, like for you though, if you're talking DJs, it's a square bar. There is no back room you can go to. Like for Neptunes, if you work at a lower bar, I can go back into the kitchen.
Right.
I can just kind of like walk away for a few minutes, calm myself down or whatever. I'm like, maybe they'll leave, and then come out. But for you, you can only walk the circle. You can't go anywhere.
No, but you can always, and at least at DJs, we always had 3 girls and 1 guy. So we could always, at the time, would have been TJ, we would have thrown to the wolves.
Switched him over, switched him over.
And sent him over there. But it's amazing to me that some guys will, and I don't know if it's because they're with other men. And actually, you know what? There's a lot of times there's been some women that have said things to me that I'm just dumbfounded and shocked that actually came out of their mouths
women
too.
can be catty.
Can be. Holy cow.
Well, with a few drinks. Maybe they were good sober, but when they're not, it's like, meow.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And I learned a long time ago to butter the girl up that's with the guy before you even talk to the guy. Because they think that you're going right after their boyfriend, husband, significant other, whatever. So as long as you win her over, you're pretty golden.
And if you win her over, the chance of him saying something stupid are slim to none. I mean, well, there's always an exception to the rule, but yeah, if you win her over, he's not going to try to hit on you or say something stupid.
True. But I will never forget the day where I'm standing there and I'm asking some guy what he liked to drink, and he looks at me and he goes, I'm like, now, nobody can see me, so that you can just tell that I'm basically sniffing into the microphone right now. So he is saying, you don't happen to have your period, do you? Just to see.
What? I don't even know where this is going because obviously I've never had that asked me. So I'm
like, what? And he goes, well, I have this uncanny gift that I can tell when a woman is menstruating. I'm like, one, why would you ever feel as if that's okay to ask me that question?
Right, when I just asked you what you wanted to drink, first off.
So how did we get here? And second, is this your pickup line? Is this something you use to try to reel women in? He's like, well, I can usually tell. So, and if you're not, then you must be ovulating. I'm like,
is he a doctor? Was he a doctor? Please tell me he was a doctor or something. Even though that's creepier than anything if he was a doctor, but at least I'd kind of give him a little bit of something.
I seriously don't think so.
Obviously.
It's obvious he was single. But
you think? He probably lives with his mom, too.
Probably lives with his mom.
And your response?
Even if I was, I wouldn't have told him. But I was just totally wigged out and creeped out like you would just.
Now, did he already have drinks? Was this the first time
I had ever met him?
That he walked right up to the bar and he sat down?
Yes, and he was sitting there. Okay.
I'm trying to give everybody the theater of the mind to get because he could have been at the other corner of the bar having a couple drinks already. He might have not have been sober. He could have come somewhere else. But okay, so this is the very first time, and right when you ask him, I would have said, "Well, why? Do you want a Bloody Mary? I make a really good one."
And normally, I'm such a wise ass that those things come out of my mouth, and it just rolls off the tongue, something like that. But I was so dumbfounded that somebody could actually.
What time of day?
Could have been 7 or 8 o'clock. It was
oh my God!
Early.
Oh my God! The sun's not even down. Holy crap! Oh my God!
No, this is not like 11 where they've had a couple underneath.
1 o'clock in the morning, I could hear that coming out of somebody's mouth.
No, this was rather early. Yeah.
And it's quiet in the bar. It's usually not packed at that point of the day.
No, and this wasn't even DJ's. This was a family hometown type tavern.
Oh.
And I was just dumbfounded. No, because DJs or Zachary's were so fast paced that if you really didn't want to hear something, you'd be like, "Oh, sorry, gotta go."
What do you want to drink?
Yep,
what?
You're out. We'll see you in an hour when I gotta come back around to get your order.
Yeah, right.
And people learned very quickly not to be rude to the bartenders there because you're gonna wait forever. You're gonna die of thirst to get your next round of drinks.
We got petty. There was a point in time where you worked at DJ's and where I worked at Neptune's. I started out as a bouncer and bar back, and then you work your way up to the level of the middle bar. That was the status, you being in the middle bar. Same thing with DJ's. If you're in the middle bar, that's like the cream of the crop.
You are the elite.
If you're outside, that's your learning. And I was at the lower bar. It took me a season to go in the middle bar. And back then, and I don't think people understand that either, as we're kind of reminiscing, back then bartending and the crowd was different, and the status of bartending was held very highly in Lake George, in that town. So if you were the 4 people in the middle bar, everybody knew you. It was almost kind of like celebrityism in a way, where everybody knew you in every other bar. Oh, hey, I'm going to buy you drinks. Thanks for taking care of my friends this night. Boom, boom, boom. It was a very high celebrity status in that town. Now, by the time I quit, it didn't matter. Nobody gave a crap. And then, like you said, it's like, is this your real job? Yeah.
Yeah, it's my real job. But you're right. I mean, we had contests amongst ourselves who would ring more.
The highest ring in every corner. Yep.
Or who would get the highest tip. And it was not unheard of to get $1,000 tip.
Nope.
Per bartender during a night.
I mean, well, I didn't, but anyway.
We dressed a little provocatively to force those tips on. But,
right. But that shocks me.
No.
I never
dressed provocatively.
No. The comment going back to the
that's
the
nothing.
Gentleman.
I mean, granted,
did you keep serving him, obviously, or is that something? If that was said to you now, obviously, and this is why we're kind of talking about this, is it made you the woman you are and whatnot? If you said that, if somebody said that to you now, would the response still been the same, or you been like, you know what, drag your ass?
That was only about 6 years ago.
Okay.
And I stopped bartending 4 years ago,
Okay.
literally like 3 days before Hudson was born. So now I would probably say, matter of fact, I think I gave him the one drink that he ordered, and then you act very busy. Try not to go back.
Right.
Where you hope to, and I try not to do that very often because I tried to pride myself, and I've managed many bars just like you have. You try to pride yourself on making sure you give the best service you can, but once you've crossed that bridge to feeling creepy, uncomfortable, that you try to make yourself a little scarce for that customer.
That's the moment you're like, oh my God, 10 more people come in the bar right now, please.
Anyone. You know, I've probably asked questions about my chest 5 million times behind the bar. And usually, honestly, it's more from women than it is from men. Wanting to either get a breast job or what it was like to have one, or if people look down on you because of it. And now it's as common as getting your underwear changed.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
much.
not a big deal anymore. But when I first had them done, it was 30 years ago.
Wow,
I've had
has it been that long?
2 since then, but yeah, it's
so so definitely it wasn't as common back then as it is now. Like you said, it's like changing your underwear. So yeah, but were the women's comments, because we just said women can be catty, were most of the women cool and more asking like your information? What was the particular process? Was it saline? Was it this? Was it that?
Yes.
Is that okay?
For the most part.
Right.
I mean, I've had women hit on me over the bar, and most guys you can shut down pretty well when they're hitting on you, and they kind of get the hint. And it doesn't seem to matter if you have a ring on or anything. It's almost like that's a ticket to cheat for most people, is that they think,
challenge.
Because now they'll try to get you to go home with her or try to go to bed with them, and there'll be no commitment is what they're thinking, because you're going to go back to where you originally came from. But it's
not Cocktail of the movie. Trust me, people. It doesn't work that way at all.
Very rarely
do
I know of a lot of, I mean, granted, there's the exception, but there's very few female bartenders that go home with their customers that I know of. I know a lot more male bartenders that go home with their customers.
I want to say, well, I can only go. I've been out of the business since 2007, 2008. I don't believe any of my, and I say my girls in a way that my staff that worked with me, never went home with anybody. My cocktail servers, which were a little bit younger, they did. I can tell you that 3 of my relationships, and I worked there 14 years, I'll be honest, 3 of my relationships were going to be one-night stands, but I ended up dating each of them for a while. So it wasn't, hey, once again, it's not like Cocktail either. Like, people ask me when I was bartending, like, oh, you must get a lot of tail. I go, no. I start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm usually out of here by 4 or 5. Do you want to see the train wrecks that walk out of here at 3:30? I ain't touching anything. No, I'm not touching nothing. I go, it's not like the movies. Totally not like the movies.
No, it's not. It's not. And so, I mean, there was one girl that hit on me over the bar, and I remember telling her, listen, I'm uncomfortable about this. This is not my deal. And she just continued and continued and
Persistence,
continued and kept saying things. And I finally was like, listen, if you want me to treat you like a man, I'm going to treat you like a man. And I'm telling you now, this is not going to happen. And she took a drink and threw it in my face. And that was one of the few times I went to climb over the bar. Now, you know me.
Yeah.
I am not a fighter like that whatsoever.
Enough's enough.
But enough was enough. Now, by then, usually before I do anything like that, I'm pretty good at knowing where my bouncers are at that point.
And
so
they watch you.
They were very good about in any bar I've ever worked in. They're always very good about knowing exactly where I am and when they need to intervene. But as I was going over, I got my hand on the back of my pants and yanked off the bar. Not that I probably would have been laid out in one punch anyways, but it was the principle of it. I mean, I don't know why she thought she was any different than any guy would have been. No.
Older, same age, probably.
Probably around the same age. This was a while ago. This is when I first came back home, so it had to be like 12 years ago. But it's amazing to me how that threshold changes. That why she would feel she's any different than any other guy.
Personal space has changed throughout the years too. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, I think even as a young person, and you bringing up HUD is basically what this conversation is about too. Is we each all have our personal space. Now, if you grew up in New York City, your personal space is 3 inches away from the next person, just because you're used to crowds. Up here and upstate, back in the day, I mean, my personal space is a little bit smaller just because of being in the business, because I'm used to it. But most people are like, there's a distance. It's not like, even if you're less than a foot away from somebody, some people get like, nope. But now I feel it's not just a personal space. It's the lack of respect. And they think they can say what, like you're saying, even 12 years ago, they can say whatever they want. Oh, it's funny. No,
it's because they think it's your job.
Yeah,
is that you're supposed to just take what
I'm going to
anybody
service
says to
you.
you.
I'm going to service you too. Besides your drinks, give me a break.
Oh, today some guy looked at me and asked me if I was a breeder.
What?
Are you a breeder? I'm like, what did you say? He goes, I'm asking you. You look like a breeder. I'm like,
okay.
What is that supposed to mean?
Yeah, that's not a compliment.
Oh, that I just pop out kids to get guys to stick around. I'm like,
and he just got this from looks, really?
just from looking at you. And I don't want my son to grow up to be one of those people. And and I'm trying to figure out what made them, either it's who they came across with their own lives that has jaded them to make them so angry, or that they just decided to go out and take it out on somebody that they felt has to take it because they're in the service industry. And I don't think a lot of people understand that the service industry itself, especially working in a restaurant or a bar, is brutal.
It's brutal. It is brutal. And people don't understand that. And I think, like, Judd, when we both I got out of the business, he got out of the business like 5 or 6 years later. And we still, even out of the business, we still used to go out 3 or 4 nights a week, just have a couple drinks and hang out. After a while, it was like, we didn't even want to go out. It's the class of clientele, and like you're saying, just was, I mean, him and I would be having a conversation, not even looking at anybody else, and somebody behind me or behind him would interject with, what? What'd you say? We weren't even talking to you. I don't even know who you are. And then start interjecting in a conversation. And I'm like, you can stop eavesdropping. We didn't say anything. It wasn't like that back in the day. People were, granted, there was always a few a-holes or whenever you get too drunk or whatever, but everybody was kind of calm and cool and respected everybody, obviously the exception to the rule. But after we got done, 2007, 8, 9, going into 2009, 2010, it just was weird. It's just the lack of respect. To get back to your question, I think the core comes back down to your parents. It's not necessarily just being in what we see, because we see so many people. I don't think it just happens in the service industry. I think that same guy who was saying, "Oh, I have a unique, a unique talent, whatever." I'm sure he's going to do something stupid at the cashier at Walmart. Not that he would say the same things, but that attitude is going to go with him in any particular situation. And I honestly do feel that the core comes from your parents. I mean, obviously, you are still your friends growing up in high school. Change that and kind of grow. You kind of grow with where the situation is. But at the end of the day, I think if you see your dad acting like that, or you see your mom acting a certain way, I think it's subconsciously it's in you. I mean, that's why we see a lot of domestic abuse. Either it's coming from the father or the mother. Young child sees that, thinks it might be acceptable, and hasn't learned anything different going further.
Well, and I noticed that too. Like, I would have to fill in every once in a while waiting on tables, which is not my favorite thing. And anybody I've ever worked for has always known that. I'd much rather be behind the bar.
Me as well.
Because I'm not a server. It's not my forte to turn around and be able to carry a whole tray of plates or remember anybody's order like that. I can remember a liquor order. I can remember what somebody drinks over their name any day.
Me too. Like, I couldn't tell you what your name is, but I know your wife drinks margarita with no salt and extra ice on the side, and you drink Coors Light. But I have no idea who you are. Yeah, I don't know.
Or why put salt on it when they don't even lick the salt off a rim? That drives me crazy.
Oh, my God. I could tell you stories about that, too.
But yeah, no, so so having to go out and serve people when I see them bring their families in, and there's nothing wrong with bringing your family in, but it's you have to have an element of respect for everyone around you. And I think I think a lot of people look down on servers and bartenders, like they think that they don't have any kind of college education or they didn't go far enough in life and this is what they had to settle for as a job. But no, that's not always the case. Nope. And honestly, there was a point in time, and both of us worked in Lake George, where we were making a lot more money than a lot of people that I knew had college educations.
Oh, yeah.
That it's crazy, and that's one of the reasons why we got stuck in the job we were in for
because
so
of the money
long
was
because
so
of the
good.
money.
Yeah, I mean, it was not uncommon to make just under $2,000 a week, if not more.
If not more. I mean, we were
some
doing
weekends.
that on some nights.
Some weekends. Mary-Kate. I remember, if you remember, we'll throw out a name. Most of you won't know that. Packy from Duffy's. One year, him and I were talking after Americade, and he goes, I worked almost 24 hours, 48 hours. I walked out in 2 days with $7,000. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? I mean, I made good money, but I didn't make that kind of money. I mean, like I said, if we could work the weekends, most weekends were even slow weeks, I'm still walking out with $1,700, $1,800 in cash. Right. And I wasn't working all 5 days a week either during that time.
No, and most of the time you had the day free.
Right.
And you can
sleep.
Right. or hang out with your friends. Right. Or so it's that lifestyle, but unfortunately you age out of that lifestyle for the most part, unless you end up managing.
Right.
Or you just, it's not conducive to having a relationship, a very healthy relationship in that lifestyle. I mean, it's tough for anybody who...
I've lost 3 girlfriends because of that, because of the job, because I was not... And I was dedicated, and people might laugh. I mean, there was times, and I'm not proud of this. I left a girl at lunch. We'd just gotten there. My boss called me. It was my day off. I need you to come in. And I was managing at the time, and this, and this, and I can't make it. I literally gave her money for the food, gave her taxi money, and took off. Left her there. I'm like, who does that? I mean, but that was my mindset. The job, making good money, I got to go. If they say I got to be there, I got to be there. That lifestyle is definitely, you still see the old-time bartenders who think they're in their 20s. There's always the lifer. Every town's got 1 or 2 of them. And he thinks he can still be the 20, 30-year-old he was. And if that works, that works. But it definitely, after, like I said, 2007, 2008, I just had enough.
Yeah, but I noticed the work ethic has changed a lot, too. And, like, I go into looking at it that alcohol is not mine. The money is not mine. Right. It would be like me going to an office job and there are pens and staplers and papers and computers. To me, it's equivalent to the same thing. Right. So when a customer is saying, oh, nobody's going to see you, just give me 1 drink.
Right.
Just 1 drink. Right. No, to me, that's stealing.
Yes.
And you're stealing somebody else's alcohol. Now, I used to have to do inventory on many of the places I worked at. So I knew and I could see what was walking out the door and what was staying. And I knew what everybody drank on shift. And as much as you're not supposed to drink on shift.
Back then, it wasn't too, if you did it responsibly, it wasn't really... a no-no. I mean, you could have a couple here and there.
Right now, it's a huge no-no.
It's a huge no-no. It was a huge no-no by the time I left because I set the rule, because you can't count cash and you're behind the bar. You're not doing anybody any service whatsoever, and it's embarrassing.
Oh, and how can you judge if anybody else is drunk if you're drunk?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, that and how many, not that I have ever done it, where people have gotten in car accidents and left, but I know of it happening, and I know of places that I wasn't working. There was one down south. I wasn't working that night, and 2 people that weren't working also that night went to an establishment that I happened to work at. They went out and drank that night. Both drove home and both died in a car accident. Oof. Well, they actually just stopped into the bar that we drank at, or we worked at, and they didn't drink at that one. They were just stopping in to say hi, thankfully. But, everybody was investigated to see where they were. Where they were. And one of them happened to be underage and had alcohol in their system. Oof. Thank God it didn't come from our bar, but it's just way too much liability now for that. And times have definitely changed. At the Club 193 times 30 years ago, if you were drinking, the police would stick you in a car and drive you home.
Right.
Those days are over.
Yeah, definitely over. You go to jail, the bar gets fined, the bartender probably will get fined too, the bartender gets fired, bar could be shut down for a minimum of 3 or 4 days. Yeah, it's definitely changed. I mean, I think sometimes I think the rules have changed for the way the general populace is as well. I think they've taken advantage of some of the good-natured, get in the car, right? You just being a kid, all right, tell your parents. But now, again, going back to the parents, they aren't either taking care of the kids, or they're not punishment, but reprimanding or telling them, this was wrong. You can't be doing this. Instead, it's like, I just don't do it again. And that's it.
Well, I remember that old adage when we were growing up, it takes a village. And I remember when I was younger, the neighborhood I lived in, my neighbors, if we had done anything wrong when we were kids, would have already called home by the time we made it home and told our parents.
Right.
So not only did we get in trouble at the neighbor's house, but then we got trouble the second we walked in the house too.
Exactly.
And those days are over.
Yeah.
And nobody wants anybody disciplining their children. And I get that part,
Mm-hmm.
but it's almost like everybody wants to turn a blind eye to things and pretend like that, that their own child, one, didn't do anything, or they're an angel.
Right.
When I know even my own is not an angel. I can
Right,
tell you when he's a crazy person. And I wouldn't expect somebody to lie to me and say he was completely straight on the up and up.
Right.
But I am scared to death that I'm going to raise this crazy person that thinks he can say and do whatever he wants because nobody wants to be accountable for anything else going on around them. And people being able to say whatever they want to say to anyone else is, when did we actually use our minds and our brains and think, well, maybe we shouldn't have said that. Maybe when we say something like that, it hurts their feelings. But that's all gone by the wayside.
Yeah, nobody cares about that anymore.
It doesn't matter.
Because what's going to happen to them? I mean, really, if the guy saying I have a unique talent, well, I mean, what's the worst? He's going to get thrown out. I mean, but
True.
seriously, so he's like, all right, I can say pretty much whatever I want with a lack of how you feel or your concern. Like, all right, so I move on to the next bar. I don't care. And I think that's how it really is now, more so now than ever before. Again, I think it's back to the parents. I mean, I know outside influences, you're growing up, you have the bad kids in high school, stop hanging out with that group, this and that. And I guess as I'm not a parent, that's probably something that's going to be big on your concern when HUD gets big enough where he is going to school, or he's going to have high school students or friends where we're going to go over to Bob's house, we're going over to Chad's. I know when I was a kid, I said I was going to Bob's. I didn't go to Bob's. I went over to somebody else's house,
Right.
Back then, what was the worst we did? We rode our BMX bikes until 10 and 11 o'clock at night. We weren't, throwing eggs. Well, we might have thrown a couple eggs on cabbage night, but what kids do now, I would never think of doing at that age. And that's what kind of concerns me is, yeah, we lied about going to our going to a friend's house. We went to a different friend's house. And of course he said that he was at the same friend's house, but we weren't doing anything. We thought we were cool because we could stay out after 9 o'clock and get away with it. Now the action's a little bit more severe, I think.
They're very much more. Yeah, I can't even talk today. They're very much more severe, or they say they're, like you just said, you're in one place when you're actually another. Or what if the kid they're hanging out with decides to pull off a crime, and now your son is involved or daughter is involved with being guilt by association, and they should have. I don't know how many times we've repeated to all the kids that if you feel uncomfortable about a situation, you turn around, make an excuse, and get up and walk away.
Right.
But it's,
you think peer pressure is harder now than it was back in the day?
Huge, huge. And I've touched on it before in the past that I was kind of bullied when I was in high school, and I remember bringing that up to the kids and a lot of other kids, and they were like, nah, there's no bullying. So obviously they've never been on the other side of being bullied. And I can't even imagine what I went through in high school if I had to go through that now with social media.
It's worse. Online bullying is a huge thing now.
It's crazy. I mean, I remember having people call the house and just give me a hard time and just, say things,
or at the bus
up.
stop or whatnot. You're right.
Right.
Yeah.
But to not be able to go home and feel safe in your own home and have people putting things online about you, once it's online, you can't get it off.
No.
I mean, there's pictures I don't like of myself that I can't get off. Nothing that I'm overly embarrassed about, because I've always made sure when I took photos that I knew the angle of the camera for the most part, or things that I would eventually have to explain to a child or a significant other in my life that I didn't want them to be embarrassed about either. But once it's out there, you can't get it back. And I think that these kids think that they can shut down these sites. They can't.
No.
You
can delete it. Somebody screenshot it. Somebody shared it somewhere. It's gonna creep up somewhere. So yeah, it doesn't go away forever.
No,
never.
Bullying now is super crazy, and I can't even imagine it.
No. So for you as a mom, and HUD is 4 now.
4.
Is it obviously we all know what's going on with the current condition of COVID and whatnot. And obviously that's putting everybody on a different stress level, and we won't get into that on this episode, but. does that stress you out knowing years down? I mean, it's only so what, maybe 7, 8 years down the road as he gets older. Is that those kind of things bothering you? Are you planning now for that? Or are you trying to be like, yeah, he's 4. Let's just.
I'm a worrier anyways,
Yeah.
so I kind of take everything in my mind, elaborate it much farther than it probably needs to be, especially at this age. But I was just reading something on Facebook the other day where this 13-year-old had been punished for, well, they're all stuck inside because of COVID. So he was playing one of those video games where they're all together and they was either Minecraft or something, and he had gotten upset with something he did and threw his joystick or
Controller,
you can tell
joystick.
how old I am. He threw his controller and it hit his monitor and broke it. So he wanted his dad to go buy another one, and his dad was explaining to him that the monitor is expensive, and it's not that I'm mad about the monitor. I'm more upset about how you reacted when it didn't go the way you wanted it to. So I'm going to make you work off the monitor, a new monitor, and plus I want you to be nice to your sister and all these other things. And then so he worked it off in the next month, and then I guess he wasn't able to see his grandfather because of the whole COVID thing, and then they lightened up the reins a little bit, and his grandfather came over and they worked on some well that they had to fix. Long story short, he ends up going upstairs and plays video games again, and I guess had gotten angry again with the video game, threw the controller again, and broke the monitor again. But the parents had left to go take their daughter's friend home because they finally lightened up a little bit and let the friend come over and visit because it was a birthday or something. And by the time they had come back, he had hung himself in his closet. He's 13. So of course, I'm sitting there reading this. Now, these things didn't affect me the way they did before I had a child.
Right.
But now that I've had a child, I can put myself in that place, and just completely devastated me when I saw that. And
was there an underlying issue besides the monitor that would? It seems like maybe we're not getting the full story. Possibly, that's just what
the father was saying that he didn't see really any signs of the child being depressed or having any of these other things, but the story really didn't elaborate too much on it. I don't know if the son felt the dad was going to be disappointed in him again, or of course the dad was like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many monitors I had to replace. The child obviously is more important than the monitor. But, so, I mean, that was the synopsis of the story. They really didn't go much farther on it. But those things weigh heavily on my mind, that even somebody saying foolish things like they're saying to anybody at a bar, that what are kids saying to each other because of things they're hearing adults say openly to other people that they feel is okay. And so things even like that, a story that happened to a 13-year-old, that a 13-year-old could ever be that upset and that devastated or that ashamed of what he's done, that he could think that taking his own life is the answer.
And that seems to be happening more and more at a younger and younger age, as far as suicides or whatever, having problems like that, whether it's depression, anxiety. Every year it seems to be more and more at a younger age. I'm a part of a foundation that we deal with bullying. That's one of the things that's big in schools. It was a couple years ago, a South High student was bullied, and it was recorded, and the video was premeditated and put out through. It was in South High. And you can see the video, hey, blah, 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 I'm ready, film. And they're filming, and they go up to her, and they literally beat the crap out of her. And it was in the news and whatnot. I'm obviously not going to say any names, but it was a hard situation. We had her on a podcast 3 years ago now, talking about it. Her mom was on, and she's like, bullying is real. It's not going away, and this is what's going on, and people don't know how to deal with it now. The teacher didn't know what to do. Back in the day, if there was bullying or there was a fight, your teacher's grabbing you and whatever. Now the way everything is, oh my God,
you can't touch a kid.
You can't touch a kid because then they're like, he or she touched me misappropriately, whatever. So the teacher didn't know what to do. She stood there, and nothing against her. It just kept going. She's like yelling, but she's like, I can't touch anybody. And I think that's a hard thing too, where like you're saying, going back, that parents like, well, my kid didn't start that. Why are you touching my kid like that? Why'd you grab my kid? Why didn't you grab her? I think we're beyond that point right now. We want to know the situation that's going on here, not worried about, why did you grab the kid? Because we don't want anybody getting hurt. It's weird.
I know. And Dan and I have talked about this with all the kids, not saying that anybody's in that position, but we've always said to them, that is a permanent ending to a temporary solution or a temporary problem.
Right.
Now, I can't even spit it out exactly what it is, but whatever your problem is, we can fix it. But to take your own life, you're just leaving wreckage all the way around you that nobody's ever going to recover from. I mean, they'll muddle their way through life, but it's not worth leaving everybody like that.
No, and whether it's the father or mother, I can't even imagine the guilt that's in there. I mean, from the post, he worked it off. He did what my parents would have done. All right, we're not going to give you something. You got to work for it and learn a responsibility. And then you obviously paid for it with your money that you earned. You're going to take care of it. That's basic 101 right there. So he's probably racking his brain going, what did I do?
I know, because
should I have just bought the monitor at this point?
But then you don't teach them any responsibility, and you don't teach them that, there's a price for things, and you have to, like I try to teach Hudson now, because he'll pick up a toy and he'll crash it on the ground.
Right.
And I'm like, listen, if you break that, mommy's not going to buy another one.
Right.
And he needs to understand that there's not a never-ending well for these things.
Right.
You have to appreciate the things you have, because you may not be able to replace them later on. The situation may be completely different, where we can't afford to go spend $5 on a toy for you 2 months from now. And how do we find this fine line and teach these kids this without scarring them for life? I mean, things are so different.
Do you think that's why that the kids are acting in the way they are now? Because the parents are our age or a little bit younger, feeling the same way. Well, if I discipline my kid too much, something like what happened to the 13-year-old might happen. Is that something that's possibly going through their mind? And now you have an unruly kid because you let it go for so long. You don't want to upset them. Now you have a kid you can't even control at this point.
I know growing up, we didn't, my family itself didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
So we didn't have a lot of things that we wanted. I know my mom worked very hard, busting her butt to try to give us things. And my father really wasn't around for child support or any of those things. So anything that we eventually got, we had to earn and save money for, and we appreciated it because we knew how hard it was to get it. And I know for myself that I don't want Hudson to go without a lot of things.
Right.
So I have a tendency to not make him do the same things that I did to get it. I just have a tendency to just give it to him without having to have any justification of really why I got it, just because I wanted to have it. I don't want him to go without. And I think that this instant gratification,
well, that's what our society is right now.
Completely instant gratification. There is no accountability for anything. They don't have to be accountable for anything they do or say. And if, especially a kid who's bullying another kid, there's always going to be a parent that's going to step in front of the child that is bullying that other kid and go, that's not my kid. I don't know why you're saying that about my child. Because the child is probably mimicking what the parent does. We've already said that. The child is probably mimicking what the parent does. So if the parent has a tendency to say these things, the child's going to pick up on it. And of course, they're doing it to somebody else.
Right.
So
it's a never-ending chain to a point.
It's just a tough balance that we're all trying to find right now. And the way we were all raised 30, 40 years ago is
totally
completely different
totally
now.
Different.
So we have to learn.
I used to get the belt. God forbid anybody gets the belt now. And if you think, you guys are listening, you think that's cruel. Listen, I was born in 1970. I'm 49. Let me tell you, things were different back then. And honestly, I would never do that if I had a child. But that's the way it was back in the day. Right or wrong, we were watching Archie Bunker. Try to watch that now. Guaranteed wouldn't last on TV for 2 seconds.
Oh, no.
But that was accepted back then. Do I think my parents were monsters? No. It was what it was.
No, but I think we have more respect in some retrospects more
for
than
the reason for that. Oh yeah. I also know that I would never do it. I would never do it. It was my stepfather and my dad. They were both the belt. And the things that I was doing, I I can't remember off the top of my head. Definitely aren't even close to what the things are going on now. But like I said, I think it's just the way, like I said, very old school, where when we grew up, I mean, you never swore in front of your parents. I hear kids 12, 13 years old saying the F-bomb to their parents in public. I'm like, who are you? Are you kidding me? I would be laid out. Even if I was in a grocery store, if I said that to my mother, I'd be on the floor. That's just, you don't do that. Don't disrespect people like that. And that's, or your parents. And if they're going to do it to their parents, then like you're saying, they're just going to do it to anybody at this point.
And I think that's part of the, just like we go back to the bartending thing. Yeah. I think if they have free reign, that they feel they can speak to everybody like that, no wonder this next generation is doing the same thing. So I'm trying not to have my son do that. Now, I can't say I'm an angel by any means. Right. I thought my son's first word was going to be fuck.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
All right.
I know that's horrible to say, and everybody's going to be like, oh, my gosh, she's a horrible mother.
No.
But that was 30 years of bartending. That,
right. It happens. It comes out.
That word has...
Every great mother says the F word. I have that actually as a sign that I made for somebody just recently. And I'm telling you, yeah, I can be honest with you with the past relationship with the little one. The F-bomb comes out. Obviously, she's not 3 or 4. She's 6. Her mom every now and then would say, asshole, whatever, F-bomb. And I would be like, oh, crap, I got to watch my language. But, her mom was like, I kind of treated her, or I brought her up pretty well. She's asked if she hears a word. She goes like, Mommy, can I say that? And she'll say it. And she said the F word a while before I was in the picture. And she's like, no, that's an adult word. You can't say that. And she's like, okay. But she asks. So, but still, I'm like, I catch myself just like, I'm like, oh, God damn it. I mean, it's tough.
It is tough. Well, that word is used prolifically, like it's duh when you're in a bar.
When you say it isn't, when back in the day when my parents said it, you're like, oh boy, some shit's going to hit the fan. Right. I say it like, it's just, that's how I talk.
I know. Unfortunately, that's how I talk too.
What the F that, whatever.
But when I first started dating Dan and the kids were there, I had to do some real curtailing to stop that. And then for some reason, when Hudson was born, it was like all of a sudden it just surfaced like it was like an unheard of word that just, whoa, hey, just back out word. There. He said friggin' today. Now I had to catch myself.
Friggin'? He said friggin'?
Which I had to catch myself and laugh. And Dan's like, did you hear that? I tried not to. Just don't play on it. We didn't hear it.
We didn't hear nothing. Yeah, because if you laugh, that's definitely going to keep it. Now, this is a big concern for you. Obviously, we were talking about in the episode. Have you changed your way of thinking or approaching to make, because this is very serious for you. It's something that you're very concerned about. Have you started, is there any tips or anything that you can say that, okay, I've learned that first 3 years, maybe this didn't work, but now this year, this way I'm approaching things, this works?
As far as the bullying thing?
No, not bullying, but just you don't want to bring him up the way that let's say go back to the customer where, be polite, be respectful. Don't, obviously he is only 4, but still, if you don't start now.
We are working very hard. Well, he had a span there where please and thank you were something he did all the time. Mm-hmm. And for some reason now, all of a sudden he's sitting on the couch in the living room and bellowing to the other room, bring me chocolate milk. So we are working on that. Now, Mommy is bringing you nothing until we hear please and thank you. And, once he acknowledges that, then I, thank you for saying that. And it's just trying to mold him as a different person. And remember I said the last episode, I said, I'm sure there's somehow I've scarred this child.
He's only 4, Tracy. I don't think you've scarred him. I'm sure no. He said friggin'. He didn't say fuck.
Oh, he has, unfortunately.
Well,
but not very often because I'm like, hey, you can't say that. Or, he'll do something. I'm like, listen, I'm your mom. You can't say stuff like that. It doesn't work like that. And it's not polite to say something like that to people. I go, you don't hear Mommy saying that to people.
Right.
Nor do you ever... Mommy doesn't say people are fat. Mommy doesn't say people are ugly. Mommy doesn't. I just don't because I was picked on. I know that sometimes those words cut worse.
They scar than a black eye.
Right.
Yeah.
And or telling somebody they're stupid or just those things are not nice. Right. And to people just use them so freely that it's wrong. And
I agree. Now, do you also monitor what HUD watches on TV as well? Because we all know that TV definitely can have an impression on the young ones and how they see the world.
He's a YouTube kid, unfortunately. And I said in the beginning of this whole COVID thing, because everybody's like, oh, kids shouldn't have screen time. They shouldn't have this. They shouldn't have that. But during this COVID thing, sorry, my son has screen time. And unfortunately, he has a lot of screen time.
Right.
I don't want him to, but at some point, we are all in the house together. And most people aren't supposed to be in the house for this long together.
Right.
So if we need a little bit of our own free time and our little own space, yes, he's going to get screen time. And what he is watching, I have monitored, and I'm making sure what he does watch is educational and funny, and he laughs and he enjoys watching it. I don't let him. There's a couple people he started watching, and I noticed his behavior changing because of it, and those were cut off rather quickly. But for the most part, what he does watch, I make sure is.
And I think that's something important too, that people, and again, I understand moms and dads are busy, and the monitoring of the TV, whether or not you have 5 hours a day, 8 hours a day of screen time, they seem to not monitor what they're watching. It's almost not that they're distant parents, but they're occupied. They're busy. It was like, oh, whatever. He's just watching YouTube. Well, I'll give you 20 minutes. You go search on YouTube. You're going to find just about everything. So you got to be really careful with that and monitor it. And there's tools out there you can monitor your kids' YouTube. Google has it set up too, where you can parental control those type of things. I mean, it doesn't take long to figure that out.
No, he's basically on kids' YouTube and the Turbo Toy Times and the Andes.
And Ryan.
He is very pro-parent, so he is, anything that's not polite or he shuts him down immediately. So, I mean, I know Hudson sees that, and it definitely has an effect on him. Do I think he takes advantage of mommy? Completely, absolutely. There's some things he'll do to me.
Every little boy does. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Crap. I think you do that the minute you come out of the womb. I mean,
totally. And I've been sleep deprived for 4 years, so trust me.
Yeah. So
this child never slept and never took naps.
I think you're doing fine. I mean, and I understand about you worrying a lot and what's going to happen, especially what's going on right now in society and what you've dealt with growing up yourself. So I'm sure that's a big concern. But I mean, the positive end of this, I mean, not to get too serious on COVID, is that he is home a little bit more. You are home more with him now than possibly you may have been if this wasn't going on. And I feel sometimes that, we know the divorce rate is up, but and you're right, some people shouldn't be home together for so long, but when it's a mother and a little son, I think that this is great quality time for you to do things. And like you're saying, you did the podcast, you're doing the videos with HUD, you're doing your videos, you're sharing good quality time with. I think this could be a very positive concern, considering if we didn't have it, where you were not forced to stay home. I'm not saying you're a bad mom if you're not, but there's other things that you will be doing and whatnot, and traveling and getting out. Now you're molding him, I think, in a much better direction, I would think, than if the situation was
then
here.
There's some things. I am a huge wise ass, and I'm a huge wise ass to my husband. So a lot of times he won't understand when I'm pretty flippant about things. So then he's like, oh, maybe it's okay that mommy and daddy are talking like that, but we're joking around 99% of the time, and he doesn't understand that. Dan's like, he's like, he doesn't get what you're saying. I'm like, yeah, I know. And me, in my mind, am so used to dealing with large children with alcohol that I say things.
When she means large children, they are over 20. They're 21 and over. We're not talking about minors here. We're talking about adults.
The adults that I'll say something and expect them to catch it, and then Hudson doesn't, and.
But I think that's the way, and I think that's the way with everything. I mean, again, my parents swore way more than parents do now, possibly. I mean, my parents didn't, but God forbid you say it. Same thing, and I can't remember how I was at 4. I mean, I do remember my parents arguing a lot in front of me. That's another thing that I always felt that, no, let's do that. Close the door or wait until the child's not there. Because, again, that affects them. And again, if daddy can say that or daddy can do that to mom, then I can do that growing up to anybody else and vice versa. Mom could do that to dad. So, I don't think... I think being sarcastic is also, he's part of you and Dan. So he's going to have that sense of humor eventually anyway. So, I mean, it's in your genes, So, at 4, again, I'm not a parent. I'm just looking as outsider in and being I was for myself. I didn't take any of those things really seriously at that age. But again, I didn't have the sensory overload that they have now. And
All of it.
I mean, honestly, I don't. Not to say that I was not a dumb kid, but we didn't have all this sensory overload. We didn't have social media. I didn't have YouTube. I had CBS, NBC, and ABC. Sometimes, if the antenna was right, and you jumped up and down and put tinfoil on it. So all the outside influences definitely, I think, are a huge consideration and a huge factor in that, especially like TV and whatnot. But I feel that you're monitoring it. And
I'm trying to. Yeah. I mean, he can literally type in the codes to my computer and get on there and get onto YouTube and find. I mean, it's amazing to me that he can do all this stuff.
Yeah, when you need your password, you got to go ask.
I can go ask him.
Yeah, what's my password to get into my YouTube?
Yeah, get into my computer and my YouTube. Yeah, it's crazy. And now he's learned how to turn the TV on. But Daddy will do all that stuff for him. Mommy tries to make it so he has to learn how to do some of that stuff himself. I'm trying to grow an independent child, and Dan will literally do everything
how is
for
that?
him.
I guess, again, I've never been married. Wow. Yes, I've done stuff in my life. Leave me alone. How is that as being a mom? You have your way, and then your husband has their own way. So does that, obviously his way might be a little bit different, but you are really concerned about, you don't want to bring them up to be one of the a-holes that are going to be in the bar. Not that Dan wants to do that, but I'm saying, does that become a problem as well? Does that become like, okay, we're going to have a glass of wine after the kids are in bed and talk about it kind of thing?
Well, you know what's funny is in most states they want you to be together a year before you get married. They want you to, take that back. They want you to, okay. They'll let anybody get married and anybody have kids. But you'll turn around and you can see that you'll ask somebody what they would be like as a parent before they have children. Mm-hmm. And you see other people's kids and you're like, yeah, I would never have a kid like that. No way. You know? And everybody would say, this is how I'd raise mine. This is how I'd raise mine. And then when you have one, it's a completely different deal. Right. Because you all deal with it differently. Dan and I are completely different parents. Not saying that neither of us are good. Right. But we are
neither
definitely...
of you bad.
No. That's what I meant. Neither are good or bad.
Oh, boy. Dan, don't listen to this episode.
It's the yin and yang for both of us. I want Hudson to be more independent because he's very dependent. And of course, I'm his mom. So he's literally been... my major responsibility since he's been born, and Dan's been the breadwinner, so he's usually working and so when he's with him, he wants to do a lot of things for him. So we're at odds with that one.
Is it almost like a different stage where you were doing a lot of things when he was younger, and because you're spending more time with him and you're kind of here? Not that Dan's behind you, but it's like a little bit of a different stage where Dan doesn't get to see him as much as you because he's working and whatnot. So he wants to do those things, but you used to do those things when he was younger.
Yes. And it's, Dan is his fourth kid into this, and he's used to it. Where I'm used to having a little bit more of my freedom, and I'm used to people doing things for themselves. And now all of a sudden I have to stop what I'm doing and grab this or grab that. And it's not, I don't want anybody to hear this and think that I'm being selfish and I shouldn't want to do this for my child. I want them to have a little bit of independence so that they're not 21 years old and not wanting to do anything for themselves or learn how to do laundry.
I think that's basic work ethic too. If you instill this now or young, I mean, that's how, if anything, I'm not a fan of any of my parents for that matter. But one good thing, they always instilled a work ethic in me. And that's, again, you're being independent. You do your chores or, whatever. It's you want the TV turned on, you go do it yourself, kind of thing. But I think it starts with that to get you to be independent and have a good work ethic instead of these kids that seem that they are owed everything and self-entitled and they don't want to work. I mean, going back to the bar's going to come up a lot, everybody, because don't laugh. I mean, we're laughing, but you can relate to the bar atmosphere, the bar world on good and bad. And because it consumed all our lives, mine for 14 plus years.
Mine 30. Yeah.
You can see and relate to a lot in what the bar system in the society is. And with, being in the bar, my waitresses growing up, starting as a bar back and then towards the end of my 13th, 14th year, my servers were so self-entitled that they just want a paycheck and then they don't want to work. You're not doing the pre-work. You're not doing the post-work. I only want to on 4 tables and then I want to go home. Oh, my God, you put me on for 40 hours a week?
And I don't want to clean?
Are you kidding me? 40 hours is a vacation. Try the 80 I'm working. So obviously those parents weren't instilling in them a work ethic. It's almost like the bar, their job was like daycare. They were 17, 18, obviously still living at home. It was like the parents just dropped them off and they could go do whatever they want. It was like daycare. Like I'm babysitting, literally. Not only am I babysitting the people on the other side of the bar, I'm babysitting some of the staff members. So what you're doing, I think is great. I mean, that's how my parents were.
I want them to be self-reliant.
Yeah.
And I've managed and I've watched people come in, teenagers come in to put applications in, and their parents come with them and fill the application out for them.
Oh, goodbye. I'm not hiring you. I'm not hiring your daughter or son. Yeah.
Or have a parent call their place of business or talk to me on the phone and say that their son or daughter wasn't coming to work today. Yeah. Well, where's your son or daughter?
Right.
This is their response. I didn't hire them. I hired their child.
Right.
And this is where we're getting now. No, these kids aren't self-reliant. They have to do nothing for themselves anymore. And that's what I'm afraid of. And then not only are they not doing anything for themselves, they're being condescending to the people that are around them. And this whole society needs to change in a whole. It needs to, as much as the way we did it a long time ago seemed like it was a little harsh and people were a little hard on us, but it gave us a different outlook and we didn't give them everything they wanted without working for it. And I can honestly say I am one of those people that gives Hudson more than he probably needs right now. That's because I didn't have it. And
was that a motherly thing already anyway, in a way? It
is, and it's not. I don't need to go to Target and buy 9 monster trucks when he probably should just not have 1 or 2.
Right.
But
yeah, but they all look cool.
They all do.
I'd buy those 9 monster trucks too, and I'm 49. No, I'm just kidding.
But in a way, I feel bad because he's been cooped up for 2 months in the house, but honestly, he doesn't know any different. To him, it's no different, other than he doesn't have his brothers and sisters to play with. So I am just as much at fault for it, but I would like to raise a child that has manners and is respectful to other people. Well,
I mean, I think as well, too, I think you're still coming from your old school. You're just a couple years older than me, so you're already we're the same generation pretty much of, the belt generation or whatever you want to call it, the old school generation. You don't disrespect your parents. The younger generation having kids is not going to necessarily be the same way because their parents went the same way. I wouldn't even know what it would be like the first day they go to school. That would freak me out. I think it would freak me the hell out. I'd either cry, and I'm a guy. I'd be freaking out, and then I'd be like, oh, crap, the school bus. Now he's going to learn all the language that we didn't want him to learn. It's going to be the damn school bus. I know what I learned on the school bus. So
I dropped Hudson off to preschool, and I did cry.
I
did cry. Matter of fact, I stayed in the building for the first 6 months. The whole time he was there, we would be in a different room. A bunch of parents, we would all be in a different room because we just couldn't let go. Now I drop them off and I'm like, see ya.
So it was daycare for you too. Did they have a moderator for you, the parents?
They did for us. But now I'm like, see ya. I got 2 hours to go do something by myself. But and this year I'm not sure I'm going to send them back with everything going on.
Okay.
But and thank God he's respectful when he goes to school, and he's very quiet and he's reserved, which I'm shocked because that's not the way he is at home. But
well, I do know from that experience with the little one, anybody knew the thank you all comes out. I mean, I can tell from when we first started dating. And she was very polite with me. Not that she was ever disrespectful, but then, that shininess wears off once you're together for a while and then moving in. And then the please and the thank yous kind of stop and that kind of stuff. So I'm not shocked that he's like that because he doesn't know what to expect. He knows what he can push with. Even at 4, he knows what he can push and when he can get away with. He doesn't know Mrs. or Mr. or whatever out in public. He's, I don't know if I could get away with that.
No.
Kind of things.
He's definitely a master manipulator, and he's only 4 already. Yeah. He asks going to do something, and it's a negotiation.
And where'd he get that from?
It's got to be Mom, I would assume. I would assume it's probably me, but Dad's pretty good at negotiating himself.
Okay,
so.
well, there you go.
And then the kids. The other kids are good.
That's a good thing, too. And that's the other thing that we didn't talk about as we come to close to the hour mark. Siblings, the older siblings, how do they affect growing up. I mean, we don't know what now I'm not saying these kids in general. I'm just saying kids, the 12, the 15 to 16-year-olds, there's a little one and they're at the house, they influence the youngest is too. So they don't have the, I don't want to say, how do I want to say, not the couth, but they're going to say stuff that not even thinking that the little one's hearing it. Like you saying, you're talking with your husband and you're like, oh crap, does he even know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. The older kids, they aren't thinking like that because they're not parents.
There's a couple things that I've had to correct the older kids with. I won't say what they are, but and then I'm like, listen, you just can't say that. Because it's not going to be taken the right way when it comes out of his mouth. Right. But so they get it, and sometimes I think they just say it just to get me going. Yeah. I'm like, listen, but they're pretty good about doing that. But for the most part, it's me just making sure that they and if I say not to say something, they kind of hold it up on his end too. Like, look, you can't say that. Or there's been a couple times where Hudson said things to me where Dan's older son, youngest out of the three, has taken Hudson aside and go, you can't talk to your mom like that.
See, that's good.
So, and I've said it to Hudson's older brother. I'm like, listen, thank you for doing that. Right. Because later on, when Hudson's older, he may be saying it to your kids. So you can't talk to you guys like that.
And Hud, I would think, might take it more from him than coming from you.
He actually does take it better from him than coming from me, because he's so sick and tired of me telling him to not do something that he's just like, whatever, lady.
Wow.
Whatever.
Oh boy, you got your hands full with this one.
Oh, he is a handful. Trust me.
That is too funny.
Well, if I can't do that, well, can I just do this then? No, this is not a negotiation.
And this is at 4. And this is at 4. Well, he's testing. He's negotiating. See, he's learning all the skills he needs for when he grows up.
Yeah, when he gets on the other side of the bar.
Yeah, accept that other skill. Yeah. Don't ever get that skill from the first guy we talked about. That's not going to help anybody.
Don't say that.
Even if you are a doctor, that's not going to help you.
No. I don't know why anybody would even say that.
I wish you kept asking him, because I want to know if that was really a line, because I want to. Was there at the end of this? Was there a punchline?
He's just trying to say there's some sort of pheromone people give off that he can sense, and I'm like, okay. Really?
Really? I would have said, did you shower today? Because I have this knack sense of smelling shit. No. Things we could think of after the fact of the situation.
Very rarely do I not have anything to say to something like that, but I was just so dumbfounded.
That would have, if I stood there, I would have been in awe. I'd been like, what? I wouldn't have had no comeback. I would have just been, you actually had the balls to say that to anybody, let alone a woman and a bar.
I just don't get it. Especially somebody's controlling your food coming over the bar, dude. Seriously.
Yeah, don't ever.
Not that I've ever done anything to anybody's food. No, seriously, I haven't.
Nobody can see my face. But anybody see the movie Waiting, that 3-second rule? Yeah, no. It's actually 5 seconds, everybody.
I would never, ever in a million
Nobody
years.
can get food off the floor in quick as 3 seconds. Don't worry, it's 5 or 10.
I have seen stuff done to people's food.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. But I would never, ever send anything back to anybody's kitchen, ever in a million years.
Yeah.
If it came out wrong, I'm taking it home wrong.
I'll just put it, hey, I need another one. I've done it too. I'm like, I dropped it. I did something to the food. I've done that because I know the cooks we had back there. I'm like, they're not going to be happy about this. And it's usually when it's the busiest. I'm like, no, I dropped it. It's my fault. Yell at me. It's not their fault.
That's...
Nope. So I like this topic. And I think it's something that your listeners can relate to too, as well. Mothers, fathers, boyfriends, whoever is in the life of a little one too, is like, maybe think about, maybe we shouldn't say that. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we shouldn't do that. And kind of like, I don't think there's an age too young. And that's just, like I said, I'm not a parent, but I don't think there's an age too young to start, the basic of responsibility and respect. And like you're saying, being a little bit independent.
No, and I don't think it's only just bartending. I think it's any job.
Yes.
I mean, I've seen people say things to people at Walmart. I've seen this is why you're only going to work such and such place. Well, how do you know that? How do you know they don't own the store or own the bar?
Yeah, who are you? And that's the thing. I mean, not to harp on it, but I mean, there was people that we're lower class, and I've yelled at customers. I'm like, I'm here to get you drinks. That's my job. I'm not a slave. I am not here just for you. I'm here for everybody else in this bar. And I need to be treated with respect.
Or
I've said it so many times. I've thrown people out for it. And as I've gotten older, and that's why I asked you about the age question about how you would respond. Towards the end, I was done. I used to take a lot of crap. I used to if I was that guy said it to me, I would have laughed it off. And if he said it 5 more times, I probably still would have taken it. Towards the end of my career, I don't even know if I'd get the rest of his words. I'm like, you can be done. I don't have to serve you anything. I mean, Judd would laugh at me. I go, I think I'm losing you business. He's like, why? I'm like, because I just not going to take crap from anybody anymore. That's disrespectful.
That's exactly where I was. And I didn't like it when people used to whistle at me like a dog.
Oh, my God.
I'm like...
Or how about the wave the 20 in your face and I'll take care of me. I take the 20, I put it right in and I go, guess what? You're still going to wait 5 more people behind you because these people are ahead of you. And they look at you, I go, you just insulted me. Thank you for your 20, but that's not going to get you any faster. Stop doing that. I'm not a dog. It's not a treat.
That or I'm sure you've seen it where people slide drugs to you over the bar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm like, do I look like a drug addict?
Right.
Why do I want your drugs?
Because we're bartenders.
Yeah, because I can pay my rent with your Coke.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work like that. It's just the element of respect from person to person has gone by the wayside. And I think that...
Well, I think you're starting a new trend with the HUD generation, the new generation.
I hope. I mean, I seriously do. And
well, we'll be doing more and more of these episodes. So 4 years down the road, we'll come back on this topic and be like, so HUD's 8. How's that going?
Still bellowing at me from the couch in the living room.
Yes, right. It's still drinking chocolate milk.
Still drinking chocolate milk.
And then at 33, I eat chocolate milk. Yeah, okay, you can get it yourself. Oh, that's the other thing, too, is when do children stop? Not saying disrespectful, but when does it stop? When do we stop teaching them at this point? Like, I know I was 23, and I never said it to my parents, but I love my grandmother. My grandmother, she passed away just recently, but her and I would have deep conversations, and I connected with my grandmother tight. I never swore, and I think I was either 23 or 24, and we were having a conversation. I got heated, and I was upset, not at her or anything, and I said the F word. The minute it came out of my mouth at 23, I felt like I was 5 again, going, oh, man, she may be in her 80s. She's going to kick my ass. And she just looked at me, and she kind of giggled. And I was literally sweats. My face is beat red because we were brought up, you do not swear in front of your elders or nothing. And she's like, it's all right. You're an adult now. I don't want to keep hearing it all the time, but it's okay. And so I always have that in my head to go, when do you stop?
You saw the visions of bars of soap coming towards your mouth?
Yeah, yep. I always wondered when do we stop being kids to a certain point where you can have an adult conversation. Now, I'm not saying just swear for swearing, but just saying you can be yourself in front of other people. Did that happen to you, or has?
Well, we will always be our parents and
yes,
grandparents, babies and grandchildren, but I still think there's a respect thing. I mean, as much as I'd like to say I don't swear in front of my mother, I do.
Right.
I'd like to say I don't swear, but I do. I wish I didn't.
Right.
Because honestly, when it comes out of a girl's mouth, it doesn't sound very good.
Right,
Like, it
right.
sounds horrible.
Right.
But actually, it comes out of anybody's mouth. It really sounds horrible. But it's become more commonplace now than it used to be. And now we hear it on TV and radio and everywhere else. But I don't know. I think there's it's a respect thing. We just shouldn't be doing it.
No, I agree with you.
And I can't say it doesn't mean that I don't have respect.
Right.
But it's
I think every situation is different. But I at one point growing up, I'm like, I'm not a kid anymore. Not that you're not my father, you're not my mother, but I'm an adult. Not being cocky either. I was an adult in my 20s. Crap. It took me in my 30s to realize that. Oh my God. Okay. Get your shit together. You're an adult. That's when I was like, all right, I'm not. Yes, you're my mom and dad, but I'm not a kid anymore. So I'll speak how I want to speak. No, disrespectfully. If the F word comes out, the F word comes out. And I really tried to refrain from that. I mean, obviously you're self-conscious about it, but if you're talking or having, and you're laughing, and you just like, oh, you're with your boys or your friends. Oh, that's fucking funny. I'm like, oh shit, But I'm just wondering how it is for each. Obviously, it's got to be different for every family when that point comes. And why I say this because like I said, we got 12, 15, 16-year-old kids swearing at their parents. And I'm like,
I just don't think it's appropriate for a teenager to swear at their
definitely
parent.
not.
And I think that, I know mine is more an occupational hazard. I didn't really talk like that until the industry itself. But I think that I won't take it nicely or lightly when Hudson starts talking like that to me. But it will probably be my fault. And that's something I have to take some accountability for. But
well, I think because you say it doesn't mean that it gives him the right to say it. You obviously tell him, hey, that's an adult word. You can't say that. As he gets older, obviously, teenagers will become a little rebellious for a while. We all go through that stage where we test our parents to see how far we can get away with it. Now, I think it's, like I said, again, I think the last 15, 20 years, the testing is different than the way I would test my parents. I would never swear in front of them, but I would be like, I'm not doing that. And see how many times I can get away with saying, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that until... Oh, really? You're not going to do that? Then the shit hits the fan. Now it's more than I'm not going to do that. You can't tell me what to do. F you. I'm out of here. And out the door they go.
And I think it's a form of emotion where you're trying to stress a point. When I finally come out and go, that I'm like, I've had it. I've hit my now level that you're making me say this. And
see, when my parents would say it, I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble. Now, like I said, I don't know if that's the same way now, but I know when I was young and my dad would say something because I pushed the limits and the F word came out, I'm all right, shut it down. I'll do whatever you want. I'll go mow the lawn. I don't care. You know, that was serious. Now I don't think it's as serious maybe because, like you said, you hear it on TV, you hear it quite frequently. But I think once you instill kind of like what the little one's mom did, you can't say that. We can say that. We're adults. We're allowed to say that. Whether it's right and wrong, you shouldn't say it in front of them, but it does happen. You can't say that. You want to see if you can say that word, and that's what she said. You ask me first. If you can't, then I will tell you can't say that
look,
word.
it's the lyrics to songs now.
Oh, my God, yeah.
And the bitch and the F word and everything else is it's just like the. I mean,
how funny that we're so PC in so many ways in our culture now. Like I joked about Archie Bunker being on TV. It wouldn't last 2 seconds. But our language, what we use, is not PC.
No.
I mean, the F word is, any swear word at this point is just language. It's just, like you said, the word the, or now, or anything at this point. So it's funny how we even kind of are hypocritical as a society where we're so PC, but you can say whatever you want at the same time.
I think we're PC only for when it's comfortable for us, and that's
I think so. I think
completely.
So. When I could see that. I could definitely see that.
And I mean, even with going back to the COVID thing, it's like, and I don't want to bring politics into anything, and we'll do it quickly, but it's not that I'm not saying I like Trump or don't like Trump, but the poor guy or anybody, even our governor right now, there's nothing he's going to say to make everybody happy. We either took this virus on head on and he did it the right way, or he's not doing good enough.
Nobody's going to be happy.
Nobody's going to be happy. There's nothing that's going to make anybody happy. And no matter what they do in any situation, you just can't cover the bases on everything. And I think that's the way with everything. You either try to adapt.
Even parenting. You trying to cover all the bases yourself.
I'm not going to be able to. As much as I'd like to think I can.
You going to put them in a bubble?
If I could have done that, I would have done it already. I bet you would. I am a helicopter mom. I know it. So...
Yeah. Oh, wait until he starts dating. I feel sorry for any girlfriend that comes through that house. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
I'm not even worried about the dating as much as the, being set up, being dating. I mean,
yes, that's true. That's a whole different topic right there. That's
having sex and everything else.
Catfishing and all that great stuff that we never had to worry about then. Yep. We didn't have to worry about catfishing then. You saw the person you were talking to.
Yeah, I know. Hey, speaking of that, I had a picture come back. Remember when AOL first came out?
Yes.
One of my modeling pictures came back when I was talking to somebody through AOL, and they were like, "Oh, can you send a picture?" And I'm like, "Oh, why don't you send me a picture first?" And all of a sudden I got a picture back of me, and I go, "That's you?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's me." And I go, "That's funny." I go, "I think I was there when that picture was taken." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" It was actually a picture of me, and they were fighting with me about a picture of myself. So
they were saying it was them?
Yes, this was
holy crap,
25 years ago now. That was like the first initial.
You catfished a catfish.
I catfished myself.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that was like the initial of it. So
Oh my
Crazy.
God, that is funny. Well, on that bombshell, thank you everybody for listening to this episode of The Mom Struggle is Real. If you guys have any comments or you want to chime in or have any questions for Tracy, I would say myself, I don't have anything to say. I'm just here.
You do.
Please leave it in the comments through our posts. You can go over to Earplug Podcast Studio or Earplug Podcast Network page and leave comments as we post. You can also go over and give some love over to the Mom Struggle is Real Facebook page, Instagram page. Do you have a Twitter or no? No Twitter.
No, I do have Twitter.
Okay, you have Twitter.
Mom Struggle is Real there also.
Okay.
Yes.
Check those out. But also, if you have any questions while you're listening to the first episode or any of the episodes, you can direct email us at the earplugpodcast@gmail.com, and I will forward those questions to Tracy. No pictures, no inappropriate stuff. And if obviously you did not listen to this episode,
I'll just talk about it next time.
Yes, we have no shame here. We'll call you out, so you can put anonymous or not, but I'll find you. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Tracy.
And if there's a subject you want to talk about, or maybe you want to come on here and talk to me, and we can have a conversation back and forth.
We can remotely do that as we're doing now through StreamYard.com. They're one of our great platforms we use. I use it at least 3 times a day. Check out StreamYard.com. Even if you not want to be a podcaster, but you want to connect with family and friends, they have a great free service. There's nothing to download. It's based off your browser through Chrome, Safari. Literally the free version, you can have up to 6 people at the same time and up to 20 hours of recording time to connect with family and friends. If you want to be a podcaster, there's pro versions there too, so you can stream professionally and whatnot. You'll be able to see that. We're just using the audio version now, but as we get more episodes in, we're going to start doing video, hopefully after the COVID crap goes away, and we'll figure that out. But again, everybody, thank you so much again, and give the Mom Struggle is Real some love on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks guys for stopping by.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation, found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, Soundcloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.